you make a dessert unhealthy? When you think about eating dessert.
All the sugar.
Butter.
Fats,
Calories.
calories.
Fats, calories.
Yeah.
I think you got them all in one fell swoop. I heard them all. And calories. And I said too large a serving size. I had it here. Oh my word, restaurants give us huge portions, don't they? And they've gotten us used to that. And I don't even want to tell you what I was raised with. My father takes a bowl of ice cream the size of this and pulls it up. So Sandra, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say about the serving sizes of the desserts in the stores. When I want to buy a cake or a pie or whatever, I'll buy the single serving and I'll eat off of it for 3 days. So when I just cut it in 3 portions. So that kind of makes me feel a little bit better having it in smaller portions.
I know if you ate that whole portion, you would feel like, oh, you would probably all that you could eat in one day, really, in terms of calories and nutritional intake. Too large a serving size. I heard everybody say sugar, too much sugar, butter, so too much fat. And then I didn't know if I heard this or not, but too much refined white flour. So I had that on the list as well. So those are some of the key things we're going to kind of hone in on today. And let's see how we can make these desserts more healthy. These are our primary strategies. You know, start with, how do we get away from all that refined flour? First of all, why do we want to get away from refined flour? Anybody have an answer to that? Why is refined flour no good?
It truly has no nutritional good properties to it.
They took all the good stuff out.
It raises your mind.
What's that last thing?
Too refined, empty calories.
Yeah, empty calories. That's the bottom line. Mary said it, you all said it. No calories, and because it's very refined, it's a refined carbohydrate, meaning that it is very high on the glycemic index, meaning that it can spike our blood sugar. It really has an effect on our blood sugar. So in fact, it's almost as bad as sugar. It's one tiny little step away from being pure sugar because it gets broken down that quickly. So we're better off to get to something a little less refined. So less all-purpose flour, that's what the AP stands for, all-purpose, and use more whole grain flour. That's not a panacea either. Whole grain flour is still very processed. So, you know, you can use it. And if we're making these little changes in everything that we eat, over time, they add up to be big changes. So we don't have to be perfect. We just need to try to reduce and improve where we can. So by using whole grain flour, we are getting more nutrition. We do have to be a little concerned about how much of it we eat. And then we can completely, so there is one way to do that. We can replace our all-purpose flour with some whole grain. And usually we can replace up to 50% without a noticeable difference. Today, I'm going to make a pie crust, and I'm going to use all whole wheat flour. And in part, you know, Pam Penny said this the other day. She said she made some, what was she making? Donuts maybe, or something that she made. And she said, whatever she was baking, she said, I was pleasantly surprised that I couldn't tell a difference. So I decided that I was going to make this pie crust today with all white whole wheat flour, and we will see how that goes. But that's another strategy, but usually up to about 50%, you're not going to notice a difference. And
I was going to say the only thing about that, it's that whole white, whatever that flour is hard to find.
This, yeah. Let me show
Very
it.
hard to find.
So this is King Arthur, and I'm sorry, I have it in a plastic bag.
King Arthur, okay.
Can you see it? Can you see it? So that's the King Arthur brand. And that I have not, well, I'm trying to think where I found that. It might have been at Whole Foods, but I'm seeing more of that in the grocery stores. King Arthur is also, by the way, a really good site to go to for ideas on what and how to substitute for different flours, what kind of recipes will take those different flours. Going to take a look at the chat. Ivy, yeah, I'm diabetic, love sweets, feel miserable because I've not been having any sweets. So would appreciate if you have a recipe for diabetic patients. I do have some ideas. I do have some ideas for that. So we'll see whether those are acceptable to you. And so we can also eliminate refined white flour in some recipes by replacing it with, believe it or not, black beans or avocados. So when we make brownies or we make blondies, most of the time we can substitute all of the flour for black beans if we're making, or with black beans or avocados if we're making brownies, with chickpeas if we're making blondies. So believe it or not, that's a healthy way to replace that flour with something that is actually beneficial. So we go from using something that has no nutritional value to using something that has lots of protein, lots of fiber, and all other kinds of nutrients not found in flour. Yes, Sandra?
Using the black beans and the other beans, would it make the brownie or blondies really moist? You know, like overly moist? Because I don't like them like tasting like the batter is not cooked, uncooked.
Yeah, they are definitely a more fudgy brownie, but I think
Okay.
there are also some other strategies you can look. If this one doesn't work for you, there are also some recipes out there that will give you modifications for making them more cake-like. So I think it's just a matter of modifying a little bit. So even if you had to use partial black beans and partial flour, you're still ahead of the game. So you could try that.
How about almond flour, Deb?
Yeah, those are, that's a great thing. You don't get rise with almond flour. So that's something to be considered. Lots of things that you make with almond flour or coconut flour end up being really dense and flat. So that's why, because they just don't have gluten in them. They don't have the property. They're not flour. They're just ground up nuts. So there are some great desserts out there, but don't think of them as a replacement in most cases for all-purpose flour in your favorite recipe. You would want to go specifically to desserts made with almond flour, for instance, if you were doing a search, and then you'd get some great ideas.